Older people from flooded ground floor apartments in Elphaborough Court in Mytholmroyd, being saved by members of the local working men's club. A lot of us in the Upper Calder Valley don't want to remember scenes like these. The massive flooding in 2015 that destroyed so many homes and businesses, everybody's belongings on the pavements outside, or here, destroyed and thrown away in a great big pile. Intense rainfall from Storm Eva in 2015 overwhelmed the whole river catchment area. The floods had a lasting impact on the community, with some areas still recovering years later. Much of the water that floods from these steep-sided valleys emanates from the moors above. Rose Greenwood was looking out from her farmhouse across Crimsworthine Valley in the build-up to those floods, and she told me what she witnessed.
That hillside there was a sheet of water. Literally the whole lot. You couldn't see any green at all.
No.
Not a bit of green. Yeah. It just poured off that.
Yes. The vulnerable landscape to which Rose Greenwood refers is Shackleton Hill, part of Walshaw Moor. Not only are these vitally important reserves of water, but they're also ecologically important peatlands, which store carbon. On Walshaw Moor, above Hebden Bridge, Haworth and Trawden, there is currently an application for 41 200-foot wind turbines, each one the height of Blackpool Tower, to be built with all their roads and infrastructure, acres of concrete replacing the precious peat, which also holds a vitally important reserve of water, preventing it from cascading into the valleys below and causing massive floods. In a petition requesting no wind farms be built on peatland, over 15,400 people have so far objected to such development, people who appreciate how important it is environmentally for the peatlands to store carbon. They were contacted by the Ministry for Energy and Climate Change, agreeing with all the reasons why peatland is so important, but with an assurance that they would not be disturbing the peat, and attaching a large document from Scottish Nature, claiming that there was no danger to peat during or after wind turbine construction. This massive landslip of peat during wind turbine construction in Shetland would appear to have not worried them, even though there had been little or no rainfall before this landslip occurred. The construction company involved, trying to follow these same guidelines, was told to reconsider their working practices when working with deep peat. The Calder Valley below the Walshaw Moors has experienced some serious landslips during heavy rain. During the Boxing Day floods, this area of moorland suddenly surged across the road. This farmhouse ended up in the middle of a landslip, and it was deemed to be unsafe. The owners had to leave it for 2 months. This landslip at Eastwood blocked the Rochdale Canal, causing the canal to empty into the swollen River Calder, making the resulting floods in Hebden Bridge and Mytholmroyd many times worse. Half of Midgley Road in Mytholmroyd collapsed and disappeared over the edge of a ravine. A landslip above Scout Road revealed the quarries, leaving all the dangerous asbestos exposed. It took the best part of a year for the Environment Agency to sort it all out. Certain neighbours on Scout Road were not able to return to their house for 2 years. There have been 114 documented floods in the Calder Valley over the past 700 years. But with global warming, both the size and the frequency of both landslips and floods has increased. Between 2010 and 2020, there were 2 floods in 2012, 1 in 2015 and 1 in 2020. You need to be very careful about what you're building on the tops of the moors. So how careful are the owners of the moor and their contractors likely to be? I asked retired mining engineer with a knowledge of hydrology, Stephen Beasley.
Calderdale Energies and Energy Parks community newsletter shows a woman and child roaming in open land, depicting 3 small wind turbines spaced hundreds of yards apart, giving the impression that this is what the wind power station at Walshaw Moor will look like. It is proposed to site huge turbines, bigger than as yet been built here in the UK, on this moorland location. The owner of the moor, the land on which he wishes to erect these monstrous machines, already carries protected land status, SPA, Special Protected Area, SSI, Site of Special Scientific Interest, SAC, Special Area of Conservation, etc. Miles of roadway and cable trenches across the naturally protected moor that is the home to threatened species of birds such as curlew, snipe, pewit, stone curlew, raptors, and also home to many invertebrates that these birds feed on. But he chooses to ignore such designations. There are now vast areas of moor close to Walshaw Dean reservoirs that have been herringboned with a network of drainage trenches across the moor in the peat, which are visible on Google Earth, and they are designed to take the water away from the moor so that lucrative shooters may have easy access and dry access to the grouse moors for shooting. This allows any water that would be normally stored in the peat to run off the land to cause flash flooding low down the valley. I was fortunate to be near this site when we suffered heavy rainfall and witnessed the excessive amounts of water rushing off the moor from the herringboned area to engulf the streams and conduits in and around Walshaw dams. It had to be seen to be believed just how much water was leaving the moor. It came in torrents, bringing with it the peat that had been washed off the moor, leaving new stream channels below the surrounding peat deposits in the process.
It was this water emerging from the moor that contributed to floods that were so devastating to the thousands of people who live and work in the Calder Valley below. They say that they're not going to ban wind farms on peatland in England because they're confident that the guidance for construction will minimise hydrology disturbance, and that's if best practice is followed. Look again at this landslip of peat caused by the construction of wind turbines in Scotland. It took 1,000 years to create this precious peatland, but it was destroyed in less than a minute.
Where land, such as Ovenden Moor, is interlaced with roads, tracks, cable trenches and deep foundations for the turbines themselves, it creates water runoff, and the moor becomes less likely to absorb any surface water, resulting in erosion. The Walshaw Moor wind power station is likely to incorporate these problems, only more so because of its intended size. The turbines are designed to be much taller, and therefore the foundations will need to be greater in every respect, penetrating the ground to greater depths, thereby producing huge sinkholes to effectively drain the surrounding moor of groundwater. There will be the need to have many miles of roadway to access the turbines, and these, with cable trenches, will drain away any natural groundwater through water runoff, or leave lagoons, as is noticeable at Ovenden Moor. The whole moorland habitat for migratory birds, raptors and invertebrates will be irretrievably lost. If the moor can no longer absorb rainwater in the same quantities as now, then water runoff will be inevitable, and any flooding in the lower valleys will be made that much worse by more frequent inundations. As a former rock drilling engineer, I am warning the lower valleys of Hebden Bridge and Mythenroyd to prepare for the worst. If anybody thought that things were bad when flooding occurred, then gird up your loins in the face of more frequent inundation of immense proportions.
We recognise that obviously climate change means we must find alternative energy sources. But in doing so, we must not cause more environmental problems in vulnerable areas by allowing the greed of huge companies to bring about the destruction of our vital peatlands. If you're going to be voting in Parliament on the Calderdale Energy Park, please be aware that apart from the destruction of environmentally important peatlands, you will also be subjecting people in the lower valleys, already victims of several inundations over the last 10 years, to the prospect of further misery as a result of landslips and deep flooding in the future. And I'm asking you, as representatives of the people, please vote against this proposal and save this important site of special scientific interest from destruction.